Hello, this is Jason from Liberate Raleigh, and this is another Liberate Raleigh video. This is the 7th video in the immigration series, chronologically speaking. This is number 7, but if you are watching this in the playlist order, this is video number 4, because I decided to move it up on the grounds that it is a continuation of a previous topic that I've already talked about, and that is public property. I did a video on public property earlier, and a little bit later I was thinking about some things, and I watched didn't watch because there was no actual video to it, but I played it on YouTube. It was a Tom Woods video. And that got me thinking about some things, and I decided, well, there's some other stuff I want to throw in here too, so relating to public property. So I just went ahead and decided to make another video with some more analysis on immigration as it pertains to public property. So one of the things that people say when they talk about restricting immigration is they talk about how the domestic population has a claim against public resources, and that a second best option is, if you can't get rid of the state, then the people should be able to control how those resources are used, and by doing so should be free to prevent people from entering the country on the grounds that they can prevent other people from foreigners from accessing public property. Well, in order for that to be valid, in order for that to make sense, there is the concept of political representation that you must believe in, because the people don't directly control public resources. They do this because, again, the state exists and it is controlling these resources. The people would be controlling them sort of indirectly through public representatives, politicians, and the state apparatus. But in order for this to make any sense whatsoever, you have to believe that these people are in some sense at all valid representatives of the popular will or of the citizens within the country. And this brings me to a Tom Woods video that I recently listened to. It was one of his podcasts that he put on YouTube. And he actually did a video that was, I believe it was from his Liberty classroom, a lesson relating to political representation. And this video, and I will put a link to this video in the YouTube video description of this video here, does a very good job of explaining how political representation, just the idea of it, makes absolutely no sense. Representation is yet another instance where a concept that makes perfectly valid sense in the private sector is completely twisted to meaninglessness in the public sector. So what representation means is that a third party, well, not necessarily a third party, but an outside party to yourself has the authority to represent your interests in some matter. This makes it's a lot easier to understand this when you look at an example. So an example would be, let's say you're going to sue a company because you feel that they have wronged you in some manner. And you choose a lawyer, and this lawyer acts as your legal representative. So what this means is that this lawyer has the authority to engage in actions on your behalf. So you would have certain parameters which define the scope of what areas they have authority to even speak on your behalf, and where this representative can make decisions on your behalf. And this is all agreed to ahead of time. And if they violate these things, then you can take legal action against them and recover property as restitution. So, as an example, again, a lawyer represents you in a suit against, say, a company that you feel has wronged you. They can represent you with respect to this suit, and you can place restrictions on them. Let's say you tell them, well, I want you to negotiate and pursue this legal matter, but I will not accept any settlement that is worth less than $100,000. And let's say the lawyer goes out and negotiates an agreement with this company and it's only $50,000. Because they don't have the authority to accept that sort of that agreement, they have violated their parameters for representing you, and you can take legal action against them and recover restitution claim. So in these matters, the scope is restricted based on the agreement, and also where they can speak on your behalf is also defined. So, for example, the lawyer in this case can represent you with respect to the suit, but if they were to say access your bank account and purchase a car on your behalf, then this would be a violation of their representation of you. So it's pretty clear the cases in the private sector that this makes sense, but in the public sector, as far as a politician, it cannot be said that they represent the people because, for example, just immediately off the bat, not everybody votes for a given politician. So anybody that doesn't vote for them can't realistically be said to be represented by them. And even if you did vote for them, your reasoning for voting for them may have nothing to do with them representing you. Also, they have every politician has a large portfolio, so to speak, of different ideas and beliefs and things that they wish they pursue once they are elected. And you may possibly agree with some of them, but it is a rare person indeed that actually agrees with a given politician on every single issue. And on those issues that you have disagreement, they are not your representative. And when you look at the fact that representatives for a group of people is arbitrarily defined based on geography, you're talking about large numbers of people. These people may have contradictory ideas of how this politician should act given certain circumstances. The politician can in no way be considered a representative of these people, given that there is no way they could realistically represent the interests of this large group of people, given that the interests that these people have is contradictory. Say, for example, somebody wants a road built from point A to point B, and another person wants a road built from point C to point D. These two positions are contradictory. So the same representative can't represent the same people on this matter, but the political process lumps these people together and says, well, this representative represents all these people, when in fact it's impossible for them to actually represent all these people. In the video, that the lesson that Tom Woods plays on his podcast goes into some more detail about these things. So I highly encourage you to listen to this podcast so you understand that the notion of political representation with respect to immigration, which would need to be the case if you want to say that people should be utilizing these resources and controlling these public resources through these representatives. You have to, in some sense, say these people are actual representatives, but that simply isn't the case. It cannot be said that these people are representatives, and the entire idea of political representation makes absolutely no sense. So it doesn't make sense that people should be able to engage in restricting immigration through public property access through these representatives when these representatives do not represent the people. And again, in a private setting, you could sue a person for not representing you properly. And this is not the case with politicians. You can't, if a politician casts a vote in the House of Representatives or Senate or whatever that you don't agree with, you can't sue them. You have no recourse when they violate whatever distorted and demented idea of political representation they are supposedly engaging in. You have no recourse. So the idea of political representation with respect to public property makes absolutely no sense, and I just do not see how this can in any way be used to justify the restriction of immigration into the country. So that's one point that I wanted to bring up in this particular video to continue with the public property discussion. There's another problem here. When people talk about the citizens of a given country, and I'm going to use the United States as an example, but naturally this would apply to any country. So when people say that the citizens have a claim against the government and that they have an ownership stake in public resources and should therefore have some sort of ability to control those resources. Well, the nature of the claim that is normally brought up is that the government taxes resources from the domestic population. So it's sort of assumed that, well, if you pay taxes, then you have a claim against these public resources, and therefore you have a say in how they should be executed, and also you have presumably, I mean, by assumption, you would have access. Otherwise, nobody would be able to actually access the roads and various other public goods and services that everybody uses every single day. So obviously implied in this claim is that you can actually use those resources. You can actually access them. Now, in the prior video, I've explained why this doesn't work, but there's further analysis that shows how utterly absurd this is, and how the idea that you can prevent immigration on these grounds makes absolutely no sense. So people will say, people will arbitrarily restrict this to simply taxation, but this ignores the base root reason why people have this claim, and that is not that taxation necessarily specifically has taken place, but the fact that government taxation is theft, and theft is a crime against everyone it is committed against. So what happens here is, because the government has stolen property from people, they now have an actionable restitution claim against the government and its property. But the problem here is, with respect to arguing that this can restrict immigration, it is not specifically the act of theft, but the fact that it is a crime, and therefore any crime can create this restitution claim, which the victim owns against the perpetrator. So if we apply this universally, as you should, then any crime that has been committed against somebody by the government creates an actionable restitution claim against the government, which gives them an ownership claim against whatever property and resources the government claims to own, which again refers to public resources and land and all the infrastructure. That is precisely the same sort of claim that somebody who has had taxation that has been taxed by the government. It is exactly the same. So where does this lead us? How does this relate to immigration as far as foreigners being able to move into the country? Well, if you accept, and it's logically accepted, it logically makes sense and follows that the act of a crime against a person creates this restitution debt, then any crime against anybody by the government creates this debt. And the fact of the matter is that governments do not simply limit their criminal activity to the domestic population. Governments commit crimes against the rest of the world. And I'm going to explain how this is by bringing up some examples. First of all, United States, and again I'm going to use the United States as an example. United States military and foreign policy. The United States military goes all over the world, engages in military actions which result in violence being committed against many millions of people all over the world, but most notably in many countries within the Middle East. Let's say you're a person in Iraq and a United States drone bomb kills your father. Well, you now have an actionable claim against the United States government. And in this case, given the nature and the severity of the crime, your claim is of a greater magnitude than probably most people that actually live in the United States. And this extends to other foreign policy areas relating to the U.S. government supporting oppressive regimes in other countries. That is through cooperation with oppressive regimes that engage in criminal activity against people in other countries is an actionable claim against the United States. So here immediately we see that many millions of people in many countries across the world already have actionable claims against the United States and therefore have the right to access any public property that a domestic citizen does because their claim is of the same nature. But let's say that doesn't necessarily encompass everybody in the world. Well, there are other problems. United States monetary policy. We know that the act of legal tender laws, which are used to facilitate monetary inflation, which is an act of theft, stealth theft from people that utilize dollars. And we know that dollars are a global currency which people use. The act of inflation which steals from people that use dollars, and again, this is many millions of people, many millions of businesses around the world use dollars. They now have actionable claims against the United States government. And again, have the right to, because of the nature of those claims, which is again identical to the domestic citizenry, have the right to access and immigrate to the United States. But this isn't all. Let's say you're being steadfast in your objections and saying, well, but this doesn't, okay, maybe that's a lot of people, but that doesn't encompass everybody. Well, there are some crimes that the government engages in that are against everybody else in the world. Two of them that I can think of, and I'm going to explain them now. First of all, the government restricts free trade into the country. And they do this through the use of force, of preventing people from freely trading with each other so that the government can control that trade, and through the threat of aggressive violence against anybody who might wish to engage in trade. Now, we know that it is not simply the actual act of doing something that is an act of aggression. The threat of aggression is itself a criminal act. If I threaten to attack you, that threat is a criminal act. And you now have an actionable case against me. If I say to you, if you decide to drive your car that you own and have every right to do, if I say to you, well, if you try to drive your car, I'm going to start attacking you and punching you in the face. And because of this, and you decide never to use your car, well, the mere fact that I've threatened you is in fact a criminal act. Likewise, with respect to foreign trade coming into the country and going out of the country, people that would wish to buy goods from United States-based companies who now have to jump through legal hoops because of it. Because of these restrictions, which are based on the threat of the utilization of aggressive violence against people, everyone has been aggressed against in the entire world by the United States. Everybody has an actionable claim against the United States, because if they were to try to attempt free trade into the United States, then the government would utilize aggressive violence to stop them, and they have threatened to do so. And therefore, this threat is itself a crime, and now everybody in the world has an actionable case against the United States government. Now, there's one more case, because theoretically you could say, well, you know what? We could change the government laws for all these things. We could change foreign policy. We could change the military. And if we could change all these things and have free trade and get rid of the Fed and all this other stuff and have a free market-based monetary system, we could get rid of all of that. Well, there is still one criminal act that the government has that it engages in merely by its existence. And that criminal act, which it must engage in to exist, is it assumes a coercive, violent, aggressive monopoly on final authority of the definition and enforcement of property rights. This is the nature of the government. If a government exists, then it is, by definition, engaging in this criminal act or threatening to utilize force, aggressive force, to prevent people from entering this market for of enforcement and definition of property rights. This is the critical distinction of what a government is, and it is a threatened crime against everybody else on the planet who may wish to provide this service to the domestic population. So this service doesn't necessarily have to be limited to, as far as who might provide it, to somebody who lives in the United States. Somebody outside the United States could provide this service, or move into the country and provide this service, or stay outside of the country and have the company that, the organization that owns the ability to provide this service but uses third parties within the country to implement and execute these actions. But the bottom line is, in order to exist, the government engages in this criminal threat against every foreigner, and obviously every domestic citizen, but in this case we're talking about immigration. Every foreigner is a victim to this crime. Therefore, they have an actionable restitution claim against the government, and have an ownership claim and right of access to public property and public resources, and should therefore have the same rights of access and control that any domestic citizen has. So no matter how you slice this, however you try to parse these things with relation to public resources and public goods and ownership claims against those resources and goods, even if one were to concede over and over and over again, just make concession and concession to this argument, ultimately everybody on the planet has this claim against the United States government, and obviously against every other government on the planet. Therefore, no government has any right to restrict immigration into their country. So again, public property, public resources simply does not create a rational argument against free immigration into the country. So bottom line, again, these arguments fail, and that's pretty much the end of it. So this is, like I thought with the first public property video that was going to be the end of it, but I ended up making the second one. So I think I've pretty much covered everything I want to say with respect to public property, with respect to immigration. So I'm fairly certain I'm done here. I hope both of these videos have illuminated this idea, and I hope you now understand why these are very poor arguments against free immigration, and I hope they've been interesting to listen to. So with that, I'd like to close the book on public property with relation to immigration into the country and end the video. I will see you in the next video, which will probably be the last one. And by last one, I mean the last one on the playlist. So anyway, I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.